This podcast is brought to you with limited interruption by Rudy Luther Toyota. Whether looking for an exciting brand new Toyota, a certified pre-owned vehicle, or getting quality routine maintenance and service for your vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota is the place to go. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. Subscribe to the podcast Beyond Politics. They host some of the biggest names and smartest minds. Beyond Politics is from a former Democratic congressman who helped ignite Barack Obama's campaign and a former campaign manager and political columnist. They go beyond the usual chatter on politics, news, science, and books. It's politics and everything beyond. On Beyond Politics, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Broadcasting live on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, as well in the evening on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Friday. Good to be with you today. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205 is the number. Guest free this hour, 4 o'clock hour. We've got Hopkins Pride going to be stopping on in, talking about their Pride Festival this weekend. Patrick, how are we this week, this Friday?
Not doing too bad. It is full swing Pride season around the country, which is awesome.
Well, and what is great is it used to be, especially in the major cities, used to be like one Pride Festival. Now it's basically every weekend in the entire month there's a Pride Festival going on. Golden Valley was last weekend here in the Twin Cities. That's Hopkins, St. Paul, I believe this weekend. And, of course, the big one coming up here on the very last weekend of the month is going to be Minneapolis, which is pretty huge up here. I know the Chicago one is that day, too, and that is massive and just fun. Oh, I mean, if you have not been to a Pride Festival, they are a freaking hoot. You'll have a blast. And I mean, it's a lot of fun. You should go there and bring bills. I'll let it be a surprise. Bring bills. Okay. You need to bring bills. I got to start off with this though. I'm going to be gone next week. For the folks here, in the Twin Cities, they know what I'm about to say is just pure gold for Chicago. Let me tell you about what you got coming your way here. On Monday, Nancy Nelson's going to be in here. Now, Nance and I are long friends. We used to actually have back-to-back shows up here. She is absolutely spectacular human being. One of the nicest humans I've ever met in my life. I adore her. I love her. She is just absolutely sweet. Longtime performer, stage, radio, television, theater. She's done pretty much everything there. And she is just sensational, and I just adore her. And she's going to be here on Monday. And for the folks in Chicago, go to Netflix right now. On Netflix is the movie Airport. It's where they had the airport, the plane, and the bomber, and what happens there. It's the old original. Dean Martin is the pilot. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. The original one. That was filmed, one of the big things was filmed in Minneapolis, at the old Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport, which kind of still, there. You can still see the building that they show there. It's been renovated quite a bit. But that's back when, that was a pretty small little airport. But, it was shot there. If you go and there's a scene with Bunny in it, that is Nancy Nelson. Nancy Nelson played Bunny in the movie Airport, and she makes the movie fantastic. She's here on Monday. Brett's here on Tuesday, which is just going to be fantastic for you. Absolutely. I think Wednesday, not only is Brett going to be here, but Philip Anthony is going to join us, podcaster here in the Twin Cities. So he'll be here on Thursday and Wednesday and Thursday, and then Nancy again coming in next Friday. I'll be back in a week, but just enjoy. You're not going to want me back. Come on, let's just be honest. That lineup, and if you don't, let me know, okay? Just don't let me show up here. Oh, because you know what I'll say is, all right, I get that. Good call. That's how I'll take it. But you're all set. So enjoy the next week, and I will be back on, I think is it the 24th? Is it the Monday the 24th? I think it's Monday the 24th. I'll be back here. And, I look forward to seeing you then. Now, that all aside, let's talk about the Republican Party. They are worthless. I mean, I posted the story. Did you see what's going on in Miami right now? It's underwater. I mean, it's like Kevin Costner's growing gills at this point. It is underwater, and it's not just a little underwater. It is like massively underwater. And the point I made when I posted the story this morning about that was 30 years ago, we said this is coming. 30 years ago, we were saying that Florida is going to be more underwater than not underwater in the future. And we're now getting to this point. The climate change is the sea waters are rising. Because the way we're affecting the heat is generating more rain, and it's just pouring constantly down there. And there's no place for the water to run. And so basically the streets get flooded and all this stuff. But 30 years ago, we said this. Now, if this was, I don't know, Europe, like Belgium and the Netherlands, where they have water issues, or if it's London, I know they had problems with the Thames. They spent millions, if not billions of dollars initiating projects that would, prevent the major cities from flooding and would be able to pump the water out when the cities got there. And they don't seem to have nearly the problem that Miami does, because Miami was the state of Florida was a bunch of Republicans saying, we're not going to help these people. Climate change is a myth. Now all of a sudden they're like, we need help down here. Yeah, we told you 30 years ago. 30 years ago we needed to do this. And you know, not only did you do nothing about it, you're not going to help these people out. The state is built on the idea of screw you, you're on your own. You know, we give you, you come live here for nice weather. We're not going to help you when a natural disaster hits. And so, you know, get ready for a whole bunch of people from Miami trying to, you know, outdo each other with their GoFundMe page. You know, this is one of the saddest parts of our modern society, frankly. And I say, you know, we used to have politicians that understood there was a greater mission here than just patting themselves on the crotch over on social media. They understood that the whole goal of being a politician was to try to help people. It's one of the things that's lost. The Republican Party has been replaced not by people that want to help anyone else, people that they're opportunists that want to jam as much money in their pockets and their friends' pockets while at the same time cutting every service. I'll never forget the state of Texas when their power grid failed because of Republican mismanagement. As opposed to saying, I'm sorry, we need to fix this, we're telling its own residents, Republicans were telling its own residents, maybe you should die as a betterment for the state. Once again, because they mismanaged the power grid, the consequence was death for their own supporters. Unbelievable. So they're worthless when it comes to trying to help out the American people, their constituents. The problem is, of course, their constituents, the main goal for them isn't competent leadership. It's the feeling like the people they've elected are going to punish their perceived villains. That's all these people have become. I mean, and it really is sad and unfortunate, but this is who they are. Then there's the showboat stuff they try to do to make it seem like they're standing up for something, which gets us to this. An overwhelming majority of House Republicans voted to have a memorial to Confederate soldiers reinstalled at Arlington National Cemetery, drawing a sharp rebuke from the Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, the highest-ranking black lawmaker. The vote on Thursday was on an amendment to the annual defense policy bill that's seen as a must-pass piece of legislation. It would have required the Secretary of the Army to reinstall the memorial on its original location in the nation's most celebrated military veteran graveyard and not designated as anything other than a reconciliation memorial or a monument. Now, first of all, from the bottom of my heart, screw you, okay? As a veteran of the U.S. Army, let me make sure you understand what Arlington is. Arlington is Robert E. Lee's old residence. When the Civil War started, because he was a traitor to the country, we confiscated his land, and then we turned it into a national cemetery so that he would never forget what he did. that his land in Arlington was now filled with the corpses of soldiers he killed. He, through his orders, killed, betraying the country. The Confederates were not our brothers in arms. Screw that. Now, I do feel sorry for the poor whites because they were manipulated mightily by the wealthy white slave owners of the South, but they went along pretty freely. Let's not make sure anyone's missing my point. The wealthy white slave owners came out and said, well, if those northern boys, they free the slaves, they're coming for your jobs, and they're going to take your wife, and they're going to take your dog, and they're going to take your house. And, of course, the rampant racism of the South was ignited, and off they went. They fought the Civil War for slavery. This was about basically keeping black humans in servitude of them. And if you've ever gone to one of the better museums down there that talks about the slave experience, you realize they were all horrible human beings. There was no niceness to them. They starved their own slaves while those same slaves had to sweat for hours each day, making opulent meals for the wealthy whites. They were truly horrible people. No, you do not put a Confederate memorial in Arlington Memorial Cemetery. Nope. Nope. They weren't the good guys, nor were they some misunderstood rapscallions. Nope. They were traitors to the country. The amendment, though, failed to get a majority. Go team go, as Democrats voted unanimously against it and were joined by 24 GOP members. 192 Republicans, 87% of the party voted in favor of supporting the enemy of the United States in the Civil War. What's the rationale, said Jeffries. He asked, dismissing arguments proponents had made about the historical role of the monument. What Confederate tradition are you upholding? Is it slavery, rape, kidnap, Jim Crow, lynching, racial oppression, or all of the above? What exactly is the Confederate tradition that extreme Make America Great Again Republicans in 2024 are upholding? Representative Andrew Clyde, apparently getting his sheets washed, the amendment's sponsor, said on the House floor that the memorial had been intended to help bring America together and had historical significance. Let us unite among the destruction of our history. Let us fight for the principles of healing and unity, which is exactly what this memorial was created to accomplish. Because, that's how we celebrate all the villains that we took on. That's why everywhere you go, there are memorials to the Nazis. Oh, wait, we don't have those? Oh, okay. Any memorials to the Germans from World War I? Or any memorials to the 9/11 terrorists? No, we don't have those, do we? Why? Because they were enemies of the United States. Please, stop. I am tired of this. This should have never been allowed to come back. The Confederates were the bad guys, and the United States were the ones they attacked. And we finished that. Thank you, General Sherman. You did a great job there. I like how you broke George over your knee. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show on your Friday.
You come along,
It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Friday. Hey, I want to thank the caller who called in and said, hey, by the way, how did, say, the Illinois delegation and the Minnesota delegation vote on recognizing and memorializing the Confederacy? Illinois and Minnesota, just FYI, northern states that fought to end slavery and fought against the Confederacy. And my last check was a lot of people from Illinois and a lot of people, from Illinois and a lot of people from Minnesota got killed by the Confederates. So let's take a quick look. First of all, Illinois. Bost voted in favor of the Confederates. Traitorous jackass. He voted in favor of them. Let's see, who else is there? There was a LaHood. He voted in favor, as well as Miller voted in favor. Is that it? Nicely done. But most of you guys are Democrats. Was there any Republican in Illinois that voted against it? No, the 3 Republican House members down there they all voted to honor the Confederacy, who once again killed a lot of people from Illinois. Let's go to Minnesota, where we actually did worse. We in Minnesota, of course, and just FYI, a little history lesson for the folks in Illinois. At Gettysburg, the Union actually was saved by the 1st Minnesota on the second day. There was a massive hole in the line because of there was just mismanagement of the troops. And as a few thousand Southern Confederate guys were marching toward us, the 1st Minnesota was sent into that grossly outnumbered, and they won the field for that moment until reinforcements got there. And it is still the greatest loss of life of any unit in the history of this country, where the unit still stood at the end of the day. I think they had all but 3 of the officers were killed. And by the way, the next day they were at Pickett's Charge, where they got the high water mark. And there only 1 officer survived Gettysburg from the 1st Minnesota. You know who killed all those guys? Confederates. That's right. The Confederates killed all those guys. So let's take a look at the Republicans of Minnesota, who decided that 1st Minnesota should have their legacy destroyed because we need to put up a Confederate monument to help celebrate the guys that shot them. Hey, Tom Emmer, the large jar of Elmer's glue, he voted to recognize the Confederates. So did Brad Finstead down in the 1st District. Michelle Fischbach, who basically, if she could wear a Confederate uniform, I imagine she probably would. And, of course, Pete Stauber, or as I like to call him, Stubby, up in the Minnesota 8th District, which is kind of a toss-up district. But Pete Stauber decided, you know what's more important? You know what's more important than the Minnesotans? The Confederates. Stubby voted to honor the Confederates that killed a whole bunch of Minnesota people. You sons of bees, man. You just absolute sons of bees. How dare you disgrace the brave soldiers of Illinois and Minnesota with this kind of crap? How dare you? I'm a veteran, man. This makes me hot. I am sorry. This makes me hot. How dare you besmirch the legacy of all the troops that fought for Illinois against the Confederates and all the troops that fought for 1st Minnesota at Gettysburg? Also, were pretty impressive at Nashville, too. This is what your Republican Party is. This right here. They don't care. Tom Emmer, Brad Finstead, Michelle Fischbach, and Stubby up in the 8th. They don't care about Minnesotans. They don't care about Minnesotans. They care about making sure they pat themselves on the crotch so that their social media accounts get likes and flags. That's all it is. How dare you support the Confederates over your own state's troops? How dare you? Just disgusting. Are you guys gonna roll out the Nazi monument next? You know, we got to celebrate the Nazis. You know, come on, brothers in arms, sort of. Is that what's up next for you guys? LaHood, Miller, in Illinois. You guys got that? What you're gonna do? I'm going with the Blues Brothers. I hate Illinois Nazis. All right, how about we say it that way? I'm mad. I am really hot right now that these guys voted. God, you callous jackasses. Is this what you're going to do? Is this what the Republican Party is going to do in, say, 40 years when we go back to, the Gulf War or Afghanistan? Are they going to make sure that basically we see both sides? Are we going to have memorials to Putin around? God, you would think that any of these clown cars, if you were from Illinois or if you were from Minnesota, you would think for 1 second that the House Republicans would say, whoa, you want to honor who? No. I'm not on board with that. Minnesota, Illinois, we fought against them. Nope, we're not for that. It is a disgrace. It is a disgrace that this is where you guys are at. Wow. That's the vote today. Thank God 24 Republicans had the guts. And by the way, maybe that's actually, maybe I want to see that. Which Republicans actually did have the guts to say, you know what? I remember when the Confederates were the bad guys. So pulling up the Republicans, Bacon, the Republican from Nebraska. Nebraska did better than you guys in Illinois and Minnesota? Wow. No for Burgess in Texas. That was a Confederate state, for goodness sakes, and he was smart enough to realize that's against the United States. Chavez Doremer, Republican from Oregon, voted no. Sisomani from Arizona voted no. Wow. Not a lot of them. Duarte, California Republican, he voted no. Fenstra, the Republican from Iowa. A lot of Iowa guys got shot up. You know, at least he had the guts to say, I'm not going to honor the people that killed a bunch of Iowans. Fitzpatrick, Republican from Pennsylvania. Damn right. Don't tell me any Republicans from Pennsylvania voted for this. Dear Lord. Gettysburg? Biggest memorial at Gettysburg is the Pennsylvania troops that fought. He was smart enough to vote no. Fitzpatrick was. Not a lot of people. Garbino from New York voted no. Garcia from California voted no. Wow. How could you guys do this? Hinson, another Republican from Iowa. At least they're doing the right thing. Republican from Michigan, James, he did the right thing. A lot of Michigan guys got killed. A lot of Ohio guys got killed, and Joyce from Ohio understood that. New Jersey, Keene from New Jersey, a lot of New Jersey guys got killed. He voted no. More California guys. They were in the Civil War on the north side, but not too many troops fought because of just the way things were at that point. But Kelly and Kim, LaLoda from New York. Wow. Once again, the 3 Republicans from Illinois said, screw our troops. The 4 Republicans from Minnesota said, the heck with the 1st Minnesota. That's your Republican Party. More bright and sunshine when we come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
But I give all my money.
Broadcasting in the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk and at AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Friday. I don't mean to get this angry. It does make me angry because you support the Confederates. If you're in a northern state and you support the Confederates, what you're basically doing is going over to a Confederate, or excuse me, a Union grave in your state where the Union soldiers fought against the Confederacy and going to the bathroom on them for the sake of the Confederacy. The Confederate soldiers are laughing at you because you're so stupid to turn on your own state's troops that basically helped end slavery in this country. Just a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. But that's the Republican Party today. So let's head to the Supreme Court. For goodness sakes. A divided Supreme Court on Friday struck down a federal ban on pump stock devices that allow semi-automatic rifles to fire hundreds of bullets in a minute, upending one of the few recent efforts by the federal government to address the nation's epidemic of gun violence. The 6-3 ruling, with basically the 6 you'd expect and the 3 you'd expect, along ideological lines, continues the conservatives' majority record of limiting gun restrictions, most notably in a landmark 2022 ruling that has made it easier to challenge modern gun control laws. Friday's ruling did not implicate the Second Amendment's right to bear arms, but rather the federal government's interpretation of laws on machine guns. In its ruling, and once again, I want to make sure we understand, the Supreme Court basically said, slaughter as many people as you can possibly can. Yep, go ahead and do it. We're not going to stop this. And as a matter of fact, my guess would be there's always would you allow them to have a bazooka? Would you allow them to have a tank? I'd say probably 6-3, but at least 5-4 rulings. Those things would become legal for people in the United States to own under their interpretation of right to bear arms, which basically means no restrictions whatsoever, although the Second Amendment clearly states well-regulated militia. Even conservative justices up until this point have said you can regulate guns in this country because well-regulated militia, and basically the founding fathers wanted the regulations to be able to be in place. That's even Scalia used to say that. He used to say, the intent of the Second Amendment was not to have a free-for-all out there. Well, guess what? We have a free-for-all out there. In its ruling, the majority said bump stocks do not qualify as machine guns under a 1986 law that barred civilians from owning the weapons. The Trump administration interpreted the law to ban bump stocks in 2018 after a gunman used the devices to open fire in a Las Vegas music festival, ultimately killing 60 people in the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. So, guy goes up there with bump stocks and, fires like a machine gun down on a concert crowd with Jason Aldean on the stage, of all people, slaughtering 60 people. And obviously, these are lethal, these are deadly, and no, the average Joe should never have these things. Don't give me the idea of, the gun owners are good. No gun owner would want to own one of these things that's actually not some kind of freaking psychopath. This is not a hunting weapon. This is not a handgun. Heck, I'll even go with the assault weapon if you just collect one or two of them. Specially made, a Benelli of some sort. Okay, fine. No, this is a device designed to slaughter things. And I don't care if you say, I use it on ducks. You're a psychopath if you try to shoot anything with this addition to your weapon. You're a psychopath. This is insanity. And the court, who could have basically easily said, you know what? No, this is a machine gun. You don't kill 60 people in Vegas with it being a single shot weapon, although you can still do a lot of damage with a single shot weapon. Nope. These idiots basically said, you can slaughter as many people as possible as long as it's a bump stock and not a machine gun. Because now you're wondering why those Harlan Crow, what those are all about. God, the insanity. And I can tell you right now, judging from the bubbling cauldron of mental incompetence, which is flourishing on the right now, I think it is only a matter of time before someone gets one of these things and starts slaughtering people. Absolutely. So the Supreme Court says, go slaughter as many people as you want. This is America. That's what the Founding Fathers wanted. The Founding Fathers wanted you to be able to gun down 60 people at a concert. That's what they basically just said. In writing for the majority, Clarence Thomas, good, dove into technical aspects of the law and the mechanics of the law the device is operating, including diagrams in his opinion to explain the decision. I don't care if it's a diagram. It killed 60 people in Vegas. It's a machine gun. The 1986 law defines machine guns as a weapon that fires more than one shot by a single function of the trigger. With or without the bump stock, the shooter must release and reset the trigger between every shot, he wrote. In an opinion concurring with Thomas Alito, thank God, the other jackass signed in, noted the carnage bump stocks that had caused, but said Congress needed to amend the law if it wanted to outlaw bump stocks. So sure, these things kill people all the time, but here you go. Go get them as fast as you can. Don't worry. No, don't worry. Unless the Democrats get a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate and a massive majority in the House, because there's always a few dinkish Democrats who say, guns are great. Unless that happens, ain't nothing going to happen. In a dissent read from the bench that indicated her concern with the majority finding, Sotomayor said the ruling would have deadly consequences, and the majority eschewed a straightforward reading of the law. She was joined by federal liberal Justices Kagan and Brown Jackson. By maintaining a myopic view focused on these mechanisms, the majority puts machine guns back in the hands of people. And it does. Democrats and gun control groups quickly decried the ruling. Democratic Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who's not going to do a damn thing because Schumer is kind of worthless, called the ruling an assault on public safety. The other said it would put more Americans at risk in an era when mass shootings have become a tragic commonplace. Guns outfitted with the bump stocks fire like machine guns. They kill like machine guns. They should be unbanned like machine guns. But the Supreme Court just decided to put these deadly devices back in the market, said John Feinblatt, president of Everytown for Gun Safety. We urge Congress to right this wrong and pass bipartisan legislation banning bump stocks, which are accessories of war and have no place in our communities. Michael Cargill, a U.S. Army veteran and owner of the gun shop in Austin, challenged the ban after he was forced to surrender 2 bump stocks. What kind of psychopath are you? Seriously, okay, Cargill, let's just chat with you for a second. What the freaking hell do you think you're going to run up against in Austin, Texas, that makes you think you need to be able to slaughter 60 people in a crowd quickly? What the hell do you think you're going up against? No, the founding fathers did not want this. Well-regulated militia. No, they didn't want you to have this. You are a mentally broken person if you fantasize about having one of these. You clown car, you had 2. What, for one for each hand? Oh, I'm going to reenact that Arnold Schwarzenegger scene from the end of that one movie in the 1980s. One in each hand. Oh, look at me go. What the freaking hell's wrong with you, man? What is wrong with you? Seriously, what is wrong with you, man? If I knew any of my neighbors had one of these things, the question I would have is, first of all, I'd be calling the cops immediately. Because it's like, what in the world would you need this for? It's not for deer, it is not for ducks, and it's not for bear or anything. It's because you're a small, broken person and you want to feel like you're a tough guy because you're a 10-time loser. So you think you can grab a bump stock and look at me. They're all going to respect me now. No one respects you, you psychopath. You want to go play with guns? You're a veteran. Go back into the Army, man. You can play with all the hardcore military weaponry. But you're sitting in frickin' Austin. You do not need to have an arsenal if you're going out for barbecue, you idiot. Dear Lord. And all you people you're like, hey, look at Matt McNeil, you're going crazy, you look like this. Yeah, and then the next school gets slaughtered. A bunch of kids get slaughtered. What are you going to say? Oh, first of all, you're going to say, false flag, those are crisis actors. Nothing really happened, because you can't justify that. So you have to create a false reality to try to make up for the fact that you're the horrible person that allowed this to happen. Then you'll tell me that the kids should have had bulletproof whiteboards, and so they could have flicked the bullets away like they were Captain America. And the teacher should have had a gun with a round in the chamber and the safety off and their finger on the trigger, ready to fire. And if they would have had that, well, then this gunman would have not killed them, even though they were spraying the room with a machine gun. Excuse me, bump stock. That's, by the way, and for all the people that you're hearing my rant on the guns for the first time, that's the entire purpose of arming teachers, is not to stop this crisis, but then to blame the teacher when the slaughter happens. Not the gun that slaughtered that teacher as well. No, blame the teacher. Well, the teacher would have just, as the first graders were getting blasted apart in front of them, if they would have just taken out their gun as they were being riddled with bullets themselves and shot them, well, they would have saved everybody. But the teacher failed. So this guy goes on out there and says, you're violating my rights to be a crazed psychopath. Well, congratulations, crazed psychopath. Thanks to the best Supreme Court that the gun industry could buy. Oh, how many vacations are about to happen now? Seriously, when one of these guys does retire, can you imagine the lifestyle they are going to live? Jetted from private island to they will never once again ever mingle with the rest of us. Those Supreme Court justices, they're going to live like the royalty worldwide because they've delivered for these people. Bump stocks are the piece of molded plastic or metal that replaces the butt of the rifle and the handle closest to the trigger. The piece allows a portion of the gun to slide freely back and forth. The recoil from the shock causes the gun to bump between the shooter's shoulder and the trigger finger, allowing rounds to be fired quickly in quick succession. So basically, the gun itself moves and the trigger gets activated. And their argument is, well, because you got to move a finger to do it, it's not working. You see, that's the problem. Bump stocks don't need you to move your finger. The gun is then designed to move itself, and you can shoot as many rounds off as you want. Rifles equipped with bump stocks can fire an estimated 400 to 800 rounds per minute, a rate approaching that of automatic weapons. Federal appeals courts have sharply divided where the bump stocks meet the definition of machine gun. It is a machine gun, you freaking idiots. All of you. Shame on you. Oh, you're not going to say a damn thing when the next school gets shot up. When they're hauling second graders out on stretchers with sheets over their faces, having to do DNA testing because they can't identify anything about what used to be a human child. Then all of a sudden, well, we don't want that to happen. We've tried it your way. We have tried it the gun kook way. We have been swimming in the blood of the gun violence in this country. The guns keep pouring in, mainly bought by people out in rural America, driving them in the city and selling them on the streets. And then clowns like this go out there and build up their own arsenal because they're weak, small people that need to feel big, so they think the gun makes them feel big. And now you got a Supreme Court who is clearly compromised, basically saying, slaughter away. And they'll be infuriated that I am saying that's what they're saying. That's what you're saying, you clown cars. I'm not a judge. I am a talking chimp in a radio station. But if I can call it clearly and you can't, that's a problem. Dear Lord, and may God judge you correctly for the harm that you just did. Take a break. Come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Broadcasting in the evenings in Chicago and the afternoons in MSP. It's the Matt McNeil Show. I'm waiting for the point that the public gets to the same mentality that we are at with abortion rights. In regards to after the Supreme Court ruled there, we're getting to that point too. Because reminder, yesterday the Supreme Court basically, on a technicality, but they basically did not want to outlaw mifepristone because they know that would destroy Republicans' chances to win for a decade. And so they basically got rid of that as quickly as they could because they were scared. They need that Republican majority to basically possibly try to hold the conservative court. And don't think that Roberts and the rest of those guys, that's not a concern for them. They know, especially the next president, and then the president after that, probably is going to replace one or two of them. And, Alito and Thomas are going to be starting to get up there. Now, I think you're going to have to dig those two guys out with a deer tick. But at this point, I think that if the Democrats get a large enough majority, enough people will say, maybe we should actually have impeachment hearings on those two clowns. But they are trying to avoid any other outlandish rulings on abortion because they know that it will politically kill the Republican Party. I'm waiting for that moment to happen with guns. Because if the gun issue was like the abortion issue, this ruling would not have passed. That enough Republicans on that court would have said, no, I'm not going to, this will doom them at the ballot box. And I don't know how many classrooms of slaughtered kids we need to get to a point. Maybe, and I've literally had this discussion, what it will take. I think it will probably be like some sort of youth camp gets shot up and 100 dead kids, an entire community's worth of kids get wiped out. And then they'll have a lot of Republicans saying, we shouldn't talk about this now. Passions are hot. But I think at that point, you'd probably get enough Republicans to say, dear God, we're the monsters. We need to stop this. It still would be close. And maybe the Supreme Court, realizing the complications and the consequences of this at the ballot box, would stop basically pouring guns into the streets of America and thinking that somehow that's going to make things better. Okay, so angry about the Confederates, angry about the Republicans, angry about guns, angry at the SCOTUS. Hey, why don't I get angry at the planes? Why not? The FAA, this actually is it's terrifying, but it's so damn predictable. The FAA is investigating after a major manufacturer for Boeing and Airbus said some parts for commercial jets may have been fabricated using counterfeit titanium. Counterfeit titanium? The FAA said in a statement to Huffington Post that it is looking into the scope and the impact of the issue and cited a disclosure from Boeing about a distributor who may have falsified or provided incorrect records. Great. It's not exactly if Boeing is your standard of integrity in the business marketplace. The inquiry was first reported Friday by the New York Times, which found a manufacturer called Spirit Aerosystems had used titanium sold using fake documents attesting to the material's authenticity. According to the paper, the parts supplier first sounded the alarm after finding tiny holes in the material due to corrosion. I don't think titanium corrodes, or at least it doesn't corrode anytime soon. It takes a long time. Spirit told Huffington Post it removed all the potentially phony material from its inventory as soon as it learned of the issue. All suspect parts were quarantined and removed from Spirit production, said Joe Bucino, Spirit spokesperson, Spirit Airlines. Once again, if this is your standard of integrity, holy crud. More than 1,000 tests have been completed to confirm the mechanical and meteorological properties of the affected materials to ensure continued airworthiness. Oh, thanks. Since you're a airline, I think that's job one, making sure the planes don't fall out of the sky. I think it is kind of remarkable how they seem to have lost focus on that one, isn't it? The company manufactures fuselages for Boeing and wings for Airbus. That's Boeing's European rival. According to the Times, the issue is limited to jets manufactured between 2019 and 2023, specifically Boeing's 737 MAX and the 787 Dreamliner, as well as Airbus's A220. Boeing told Huffington Post the company directly sources its titanium for the vast majority of its products, and those supplies are not part of the current investigation. This industry-wide issue affects some shipments of titanium received by a limited set of suppliers, and test performed to date have indicated that the correct titanium alloy was used. So I want to, if I can, I get you're trying to say 90% of the plane is A-okay. The 10% is the problem. You do understand this. You can't go out there and like, well, most of the plane is great. You can't do that.
Oh, the plane will be just fine if a wing flies off at 35,000 feet.
Who needs a tail? Who needs a tail, Patrick? It's that's just something behind you. You're going forward. Come on, man. Science. To ensure compliance, we're removing any affected parts of the planes prior to delivery. Well, that's nice. Our analysis shows in-service fleet can continue to fly safely because 90% of it's A-okay. Airbus did not immediately respond for comment because I imagine they're scrambling because they seem like a much better airline manufacturer than Boeing at this point. So they're probably scrambling to make sure their planes are safe. Not trying to do 95% of the plane is just fine. Jesus. This doesn't surprise me. This does not surprise me at all. And you know why? Because I can see it. Now, I don't think any company would be that brazen that the entire inventory would be, a fraudulent titanium or fraudulent metal. Counterfeit titanium is the official term. Counterfeit titanium. I don't think any company that was to be supplying these parts would be that brazen that the entire inventory would be counterfeit. But if they can all of a sudden shave off a few $100,000 on costs by buying basically a counterfeit titanium, mixing it in with the rest of it, who's to know? Well, apparently, when the planes start falling out of the sky, people have a tendency of saying, hey, wasn't this supposed to be titanium? I do not have a lot of faith in the airline industry right now. Not the specific airlines. I think they're much dupes in this whole thing. It's the manufacturers who I think have lost all credibility at this point. And sure, 95% of the plane is okay. Have a good next week. Nancy Nelson in for me next Monday for you, or in Chicago. Minneapolis, St. Paul, hour 2 up next. Hour number 2 of the show here on your Friday. Good to be with you, Matt and Patrick. And once again, it's something I mentioned at the beginning of the hour, last hour. I'm going to be gone this next week. Nancy Nelson's in on Monday. Brett's here on Tuesday. Brett and Philip Anthony are in on Wednesday and Thursday, and then Nancy in for us on Friday. It's going to be a hoot. Make sure you're here for that. It really will be a lot of fun. So 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. By the way, just checking, if you haven't been paying attention to Trump stock, it's not doing well lately. Now, reminder, this is a stock that opened up inexplicably and got up to like nearly like $70 a share. And if you look at the metrics of the company, you look at their profit margins, you look at their potential future earnings, this is a stock which would be generous to trade at $8 to $9 a share. It would be generous to do that. I think it's more of a $7 a share. Well, everyone started to wake up to that, and about 2 months ago, the stock plummeted down to about $22 a share, and that's when Donald Trump came on out and said, Republicans, you need to go prop my stock up. Well, they did, and it got up to about 50-something, but it has been tumbling. It's been rumbling, tumbling down. It's lost 15 points. Mark my words, at some point, this thing's going to fall off the cliff because people are going to realize this is not going to come back because there's just no there there. There's just no there. So your tax investment help is don't buy Trump stock. Coming up here in a little bit, we're going to be talking about Hopkins Pride. That's coming up this weekend. And once again, St. Paul Pride, I think, is this weekend, too. We're not going to talk about that one per se, but there are Pride events out there. Get out there and have some fun with that, by all means. Speaking of having fun, a former Chick-fil-A manager at the location of the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport has pled guilty to wire fraud after it had been determined he had embezzled more than $140,000 from the location, using it to pay for expenses such as OnlyFans subscriptions. Wow. According to court documents, Timothy Michael Hill, 36 of Woodbury, was responsible for collecting and making daily cash deposits into a safe deposit box as part of his managerial duties. Between September 2022 and October 2023, Hill collected daily cash receipts from the restaurant, but instead of depositing the money into a safe deposit box, he pocketed some or all of the cash. He attempted to conceal his embezzlement by using future cash receipts to cover this theft, creating a false impression the cash deposits were delayed rather than stolen. Court documents said he would also send emails to the company's accounting department saying he was making deposits from earlier dates when he was actually using cash collected to conceal his embezzlement. Hill spent the stolen profits on jewelry, online sports betting, and the adult website OnlyFans, according to the charges. He's wow. Is that, you're looking at your standard 30-year-old Trump fan, I'm guessing here. Jewelry, online sports betting, and adult and OnlyFans. He also transferred thousands of dollars to a Cash App to several female colleagues in exchange for personal photos and videos. Wow. He must be a looker. In total, Hill stole approximately $144,000 through 13 months. Hill pled guilty to one count of wire fraud, and a sentencing hearing will be scheduled at a later time. Yeah. That's pretty bad. That's really, really bad, as a matter of fact. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. So, the Republican Party of Minnesota. Oh, they're excited. Patrick, they are excited right now.
I'm looking forward to hearing what about.
All right, there's a new poll out here. Oh, boy. It's a huge news this afternoon. Donald Trump is ahead in Minnesota. Wow, that would be shocking if it was true. The Minnesota, this is from Interactive Polls, Minnesota GE, the McLaughlin and Associates Real Donald Trump internal poll shows Trump leading 47 to 45. What suburbs are going to go for Trump? Because that's got to mean some suburbs are going, no, not a lot of suburbs are going to go for Trump. Outside of it, you get like the tertiary ones, maybe one or two. When you factor in other people like RFK Jr., he's leading by 4. And yeah, they say fine. They're saying this. So I took a quick moment here just to, once again, this is the Republican Party in Minnesota saying, boy, oh boy, Doomsville for the Democrats. So let me take a look at this McLaughlin group. Now, this is a story from 2019 from The Hill. So, a conservative website. Jim and John McLaughlin occupy a fraught space in Trump world as pollsters for a president who runs on gut instinct and disparages the polling industry that failed to forecast a shocking victory in 2016. The McLaughlin brothers, both of whom are on the Trump campaign's 2020 polling team led by Tony Fabrizio, have become trusted confidants for Trump, particularly on the hot-button cultural issues the president uses to highlight rifts between America and the coastal elites. By the way, how did he do in 2020? Oh, that's right, he lost. The pollsters have become visible spokespersons for the campaign through the appearances on Fox News, and they discuss the president's polling strength or what they view as Democrats' blind spots. Once again, who won in 2020? Oh, that's right. As pollsters for scores of Republican candidates in the House and Senate over the years, as well as for GOP presidential campaigns dating back to the businessman Steve Forbes and former Senator Bob Dole, the McLaughlins have bridged a gulf between establishment Republicans and Trump, whose disruptive tendencies have exposed a divide within the GOP. Once again, the 2019 story. McLaughlin is one of the sharpest and most seasoned minds in politics, said Ari Fleischer, the White House press secretary under Bush. Yeah. So basically, the great poll that's showing that Minnesota is now, it's Doomsville for Biden for the first time in decades. A Republican's going to win the state. That poll comes from his buddies. His pals released this poll. His friends released this poll. And we're supposed to take this as legitimate. Minnesota Republican Party, I know that you are desperate to give yourself some positivity, especially in the face of Royce White. He is definitely, he's doing exactly what I thought he was going to do. I mean, as much as you guys wish that one of the other Republican candidates for Senate would start breaking out a little bit here, the truth is the fact that this guy is getting exposed in traditional media only makes him more attractive for the Republican voter. He is going to be your nominee. And I get it. You're trying to find any way you can basically try to spin the news cycle and say, you should be terrified. But you might as well get me a poll from Eric and Don Jr. and say, wow, look at this independent thought process. It would probably be in crayon with a lot of cocaine smeared on it. That would be my guess. I mean, if we did get one from Don Jr. and Eric. But stop. This is embarrassing. If you're going to sit there and try to say something like this, like, oh boy, stop the presses, get ready for that 5 o'clock news, maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't have Donald Trump's personal favorite pollster delivering the poll numbers, which you are saying guarantees your victory in November. Amy Klobuchar, okay. Barring anything horrible happening, Joe Biden and Amy Klobuchar are going to carry a lot of this state. Biden's going to win this state. I mean, I can't see, I don't see anything in this state that tells me that people are taking Trump more seriously than they did in 2016 or 2020. I mean, you need to have him appealing to more people. And I know a lot of people in the suburbs. I'm in the suburbs myself. I know a lot of people in the suburbs, and I do not know anyone who stayed, especially Republicans, moderate Republicans in the suburbs, who stayed away from him because it's Donald Trump, who've all of a sudden said, he's back. By the way, I don't know if you saw this story. There's a story that's out that Trump met when he went to D.C. yesterday and he met with the Republicans. He also met with business leaders, and multiple business leaders came out of that meeting saying there is something seriously wrong with this guy because he could not maintain a conscious stream of thought at all, which is something we saw last weekend with the whole boat battery shark debacle, where all of a sudden he starts going off on tangents. He is losing it. And as we get closer, and once again, you guys are about to try to throw him on a debate stage with Joe Biden? Come on, man. That's not going to happen. I do not think Donald Trump's going to show up for that because I don't think he is mentally competent ready for it. I think his mental competence is declining. I posted a story this morning from the New Yorker, which also said it's clear that this guy is definitely losing abilities. I mean, it's not real bad. Like, it's some people, I've had experience with, people with dementia and Alzheimer's in my family. It's not, late stage of that stuff, but he seems to have a lot of problems. And when all the business leaders come out of that, or many of the business leaders come out of that saying, what was that? Just a stream. I'm just really popular. Everybody loves me. I remember. You remember Different Strokes? Different Strokes was a great show. I remember that. It was great. Hey, make sure you make a big check for me. I'm going to give you no taxes. I mean, that's the guy that's going to show up on the world stage. Please. So I get it. You're looking at the train barreling down on you, Republicans of Minnesota. You're looking at the likely chance you're going to get absolutely destroyed this election cycle, especially if Royce White is your Senate candidate. And so you're trying at the Republican Party of Minnesota to try to make it seem like some sort of neutral entity is calling this for Trump. No. If a guy like John McCain could not get Minnesota to vote Republican, Donald Trump ain't going to do it. All right, let's just put it in perspective that way. If a guy like Mitt Romney, and I'm not saying Mitt Romney is necessarily a great guy, but Mitt Romney is 1,000 times more of a statesman than Donald Trump ever will be. He had no chance in Minnesota. So you guys keep thinking this, keep putting out this stuff. I'll keep laughing because, like I said, McLaughlin and Associates, that's basically his personal pollsters he has worked with for years. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Let's take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Friday. AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It is the Matt McNeil Show. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. All right, so I'm going to make the call here. I want to say for the record, free Leonard Peltier. Come on, free Leonard Peltier. This is long overdue. I don't think Leonard Peltier did it. The killing of the FBI agents. I don't think he did. I think they found a Native American, said you're guilty, and that's it. And so I don't think they've got the right guy, frankly. That being said, he is 47 years in prison at this point. He is in the last stages of his life. But once again, I'm under the mindset greatly that Leonard Peltier is innocent of the crimes he was convicted of. For nearly 5 decades, Peltier has remained behind bars, serving a pair of life sentences for the murder of 2 FBI agents during a 75 shootout at Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. Upheld as a political prisoner among his fellow activists and Native American groups, his supporters call it a miscarriage of justice, while the FBI insists that justice has been served and Peltier should never be released. This week, he once again campaigned for his parole after spending 47 years in prison for the murders he says he did not commit. A 6.5-hour parole hearing was held in a small conference room on Monday in Coleman Penitentiary, the federal prison complex in Coleman, Florida, northwest of Orlando. Present were Peltier, a member of the American Indian movement, who has long maintained his innocence, along with his 3 lawyers and representatives from the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Fargo, and family members of Special Agents Jack Kohler and Ronald Williams. FBI Director Christopher Wray submitted a statement urging the commission to reject his parole. We must never forget to put aside that Peltier intentionally murdered these 2 young men and has never expressed remorse for his ruthless actions. Granting parole for Peltier would only serve to diminish the brutality of his crime and further the suffering, the surviving of the families, as well as the FBI family. But Peltier's role in the deaths has long been disputed. Kevin Sharp, a former federal judge from Tennessee and one of Peltier's attorneys, attended the hearing at Coleman. Our position is that you have got a conviction on a seriously flawed set of facts, he said in an interview. You have a conviction that is seriously tainted with investigation and prosecutorial misconduct. Yet Peltier has spent over half his life in prison. Any additional incarceration is just retribution. It serves no purpose towards any idea of justice. You also have a nearly 80-year-old man who spent 50 years in prison. He has serious health conditions. The prison cannot take care of his health needs. They got their pound of flesh. It's time to end this. The American Indian movement has long maintained that Peltier is innocent, noting that the U.S. Parole Commission has held a number of hearings on Leonard's case over the years, but has always denied his parole on the grounds that it won't accept criminal responsibility for killing the 2 agents, murders he simply didn't commit. They're acting as if he should just apologize. Then they can say, yep, we got the right guy, and he moves on. I'm going to make this obvious statement. And if I can try to put aside just the firebrand of the fact that this is a Native American being, in my mind, wrongly held in connection to this. Do you not think that if he had murdered them, that after maybe the 35th year, 36th year, if them saying, you know what, we might eventually let you out if you show any level of remorse, that he would have shown some level of remorse? That he would have said, I'm sorry? The fact that he hasn't, at this point, I'm sorry. I mean, my inclination is that he didn't do it. Now, I read a book on this probably 20 years ago. I do not want to try to, what I can remember about it was there was really, it seemed like he was guilty for being Native American. And there were, as his lawyers pointed out, there was tons of problems with the investigation, tons of problems with the prosecution of this case. But they knew if they basically got this in front of a white jury, that he'd be guilty. Or was it a jury or judge? I can't remember exactly. I think it was a white jury. They knew they'd be guilty because Native American, and that was it. There are some elements. Now, once again, I mean, we're talking about generations later here. And the FBI and other people are still adamant that he shouldn't be let out. But at the same time, there does seem to be some real big holes in the evidence which they insist show he definitively did this. I don't think he did. Now, someone did. I think that's obvious. Somebody did. And I think at this point, what the FBI doesn't want to do is acknowledge they might have the wrong guy. And that for 47 years, the real killer of these FBI agents has been running around and they haven't found him. And that, in my mind, is to a point the more heinous element of this. It's not only have you punished this man wrongly by holding him all this time, you've let the real murderer go, which is what? What? What are you doing? I am a big white guy. So the things I say in regards to Native American issues should only be taken as observations, things I've listened. Of course, the great show after mine is Native Roots Radio, Robert Pilot and crew, Haley over there. They do a great job. If you want to educate yourself on Native American issues, you should listen to that. I have done some reading. I have gone and looked at the history here. There are plenty of state parks. Travis DeSuge Park down just south of the metro area in St. Peter. You should go down there and realize the monumental injustice that happened to the Native Americans in that situation. Native Americans, I mean, the Dakota War of 1863, where basically the federal government and the people that the federal government put out here to try to help the Native Americans were not here to help the Native Americans. They were here to torture and punish them, and basically they had had enough. And frankly, they had a right to be upset. Time and time again, I've talked about when I went out to the parks of the West, and you go into these insanely arid desert regions, and Native American tribes had figured out how to cultivate the riverbeds to grow crops, and then built grain storage facilities high up in the cliffs. Unbelievable. All run off their land when white guys got there saying, it's mine now. Thousands and thousands of years of Native American heritage destroyed because some guy from Germany basically said, no, I'm the farmer now. And the federal government sent the troops in to make sure that happened. I do not think Leonard Peltier did this. I do not think so. There's just, we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty without a shadow of a doubt. There's plenty of holes in this story. If you go read up on it, you'll see that. And like I said, there's the other problem of the fact that if he didn't do it, and I don't think he did, well, someone did, and they should be held accountable if they're even still alive. Which makes me feel as if the whole point of holding Leonard Peltier at this point is just because they just don't have anyone else they can go get. So they basically, this is the date they've come with, and they're basically determined to make this date happen. We need to make amends here. Now, it is not my place. I got into it with this freaking loonball of a Vikings podcaster who was so upset that we replaced the Minnesota state flag with a new flag and got rid of the Manifest Destiny because he thought that was tradition. And he kept putting out those same bigoted talking points. I didn't have time for him. And I said to him, you need to go talk to Native Americans. As a matter of fact, I even got Robert Pilot to say, go talk to this guy. I think he needs some help. And Vikings, I don't know what you're doing with this guy, but this guy sounds like a loon ball. But needless to say, they are still persecuted mightily. But they're also just ignored and disrespected on a regular basis. Most Native Americans I talk to will tell you very clearly, free Leonard Peltier, he's not guilty of it. I believe him. I believe them because I've read about the trial, but I also believe them because I can see it in their eyes. They don't think he's guilty. They think that he's a scapegoat. And I'm not going to get in the way of that feeling. If you want to know how you make amends for the Native Americans, ask them. They'll tell you what they would like to see. This Leonard Peltier, and this is a travesty that has happened for 47 years. So we can go through Biden to Trump to Obama to W to Clinton to HW to Reagan to Carter. This is an injustice that's gone on way too long. And it's happened on both sides. I think it's time for us to make amends, free Leonard Peltier, and the FBI needs to come on out and admit that they probably didn't get the right guy. And they're sorry. But that's just my thought. And like I said, if you have any questions about this, don't ask me. Go talk to the Native Americans. They'll tell you very straightforward what they would like to see. And you should. Because frankly, in this day and age, they seem to be smarter than most of us on a lot of different things. They are way ahead of the curve. I trust Native American judgment wholeheartedly at this point. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll take a break, come on back. We'll talk Hopkins Pride when we do return. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Friday. AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Patrick was spot on at the beginning of the show today when he said the best part about Pride Month is now we're starting to see more and more weekend celebrations throughout the metro area, and it is fantastic. Of course, the big one happens in Minneapolis on the 30th. Of course, a lot of communities having. We were in Golden Valley last weekend. This weekend, Hopkins is up with their Hopkins Pride, and joining us on the phone to talk about this is Paul Peterson from the Hopkins Pride Committee, and once again, starting tomorrow. It is all day tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, it is. It starts at 11 o'clock officially and goes until 7 o'clock, and it's going to be on 8th Avenue in front of LTD Brewing, just off Main Street. But there is a pre-event race also going on at 9:30 a.m. Yeah, and you can come down to the clock tower. I'm blanking on what the cross street is there.
I think it's 9th, isn't it? 9th and Main Street there, isn't it?
Yeah, that sounds right. So there's going to be an alley cat race, and participants are going to be biking to different local businesses, collecting colored ribbons, and the first biker back to the clock tower wins the race. We're going to have prizes for first, second, third, and DFL.
But we do that would be last.
Yeah, it'd be dead frickin' last.
There
also prizes for the best dressed and best decorated bikes. So get your bling on and come out and have a ride.
Let's talk a little bit about something that, like I said, I mentioned in the beginning of this with Patrick here. Let's talk about the fact that this is going as it should be going. We got Pride Month. We've always had, and a lot of communities have had for the last few years one large event, but now you're seeing communities like Hopkins now getting their events, this is not their first one. How many years has the Hopkins event been going on?
This is our second year, actually. And I think it was Golden Valley was the first suburban Pride Festival, so really the first opportunity for anybody in the metro area to go to a smaller, slightly gentler, quieter maybe, more spacious. I'm not sure how to describe that.
Well, it's
but if you've been to Minneapolis Pride, you know what I'm talking about, right? You just kind of like shrugging elbows and you're just kind of touching body parts the whole day long as you're walking around that place.
Nothing wrong with that, frankly. It's just me. That's my own personal thing. That it is packed, but it is a little less packed. But I'm going to say this. I was there last year, and what was it? 70 vendors, 3 times as many as last year. Are you all going to be on 8th? Because that is going to be packed, man.
Yeah. Last year we had, I believe it was 21 vendors, including, community outreach organizations, faith communities. And this year we cranked that number up to 70. So, yeah, it's going to, and we're still packing this into only 2/3 of a single city block. So that's the other advantage of our small little festival is it's like, like concentrated orange juice, right? You're going to get all of this flavor and all the stuff, but it's super concentrated. So if you're worried about having to walk really far to see everything, don't.
Yeah.
It's 2/3 of a block.
Well, it's great to see it develop like this. And I got the impression last year when I was there that for you, and just talking about the city of Hopkins very much was quite happy with this event. And, I think kind of one of the reasons why it seems like, this is becoming a much bigger event, which is really cool.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was really kind of tossed together, I give you a little bit of history of it, really. So our founder, Wes Kokish, was working on a mural in downtown Hopkins to celebrate the LGBTQIA plus community. And then one morning he woke up to find the mural destroyed and decided, hey, you know what? I think Hopkins could really needs a pride event to create awareness of the community and just help everyone feel welcome and safe. And I think this year it's especially important because of a recent attack against Cobalt Sovereign, was a junior at Hopkins High School, and a trans student was basically sucker punched coming out of the bathroom, allegedly, and ended up in the hospital with jaw fractures and shattered teeth. And it's just, just really horrible, but it really just brings it home that even after 55 years since Stonewall, right, we still have ignorance out there. People are afraid of differences instead of celebrating them. And we really, really want to be part of turning that around in our community.
I want to make sure I encourage people to go to Hopkins, go to one of these Pride events, mainly because you're going to have one of the best times of your life with the drag performances. Now, I also want to make sure I tell people, bring bills. You'll understand when you get out there. But you need to bring bills with you because the drag performance, this is how they get paid, is by money. But if there isn't something that is an absolutely a hoot, it's a drag show. And if you've never been, Hopkins, you're going to have a heck of a one coming up here tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. We've got 6 queens, and this year we're bringing on Andre 1000 as our drag king. So our queens feature Connie Taylor, Nikki Love, Maiden Taiwan, which I just love the pun in that name. It just makes me giggle every time I look at that. Tommy St. James, Jade Knight, and the Creme.
Well, I will say this. One of the things that was really cool last year is you brought in these performers from around the Midwest. They came out here. It wasn't just people from Minneapolis. You had, I think, someone was from Iowa last year. I mean, is that still the case? You're bringing them in from all around the Midwest?
Yep, this is basically the same crew, and then we're adding Andre 1000.
Beautiful.
Who I believe is local to Minnesota. But you're right. Yeah, we do have people up from Iowa and stuff, and they're amazing. They're funny. They're adorable. They really get out and interact with the audience. And there was a moment where I think I saw like a 2-year-old, but probably also somebody well into their 90s. Every time they would just reach out with their dollar bills, and there were just smiles everywhere. And it really brought a tear to my eye when I saw that last year. I said, that kind of moment is exactly what we're trying to promote, that you don't need to be afraid of differences, right?
Well, you should.
Let's celebrate.
Exactly. And it's fun. It's fun. I do not understand how it's a person going out there and dancing pretty good in heels, may I also add, which is pretty spectacular. And the kids have a great time.
I see them in like 4 or 5 6-inch tall heels, and I'm just amazed that they're just, they're just dancing on their own personal platforms, really.
If I have my feet bare, I tumble all over the place. The music is great. The dancing is great. And I think it is something which, as you say, it's celebrating. I love the idea we embrace Pride Month as June. June is a great month in Minnesota. Flowers are blooming. The sun is out generally, and you get nice sunny days, and it's warming up. And so this is. I'm so glad to see Hopkins. This is really taken off down there.
Yeah. And you know what else comes out in June? Well, usually sometime late April or May. The traffic cones are just gorgeous this time of year.
Yes, they are. Oh, we should mention, if you are going to Hopkins, one of the ramps to Excelsior, I think northbound 169 at Excelsior, that's closed. But you can go Highway 100 to Excelsior, take that over. Also, you can come in from Highway 7, come down 5th. You can do it that way, too. I used to be, I don't know if you know this, I used to be a traffic reporter in town. I can get you anywhere you need to go.
Well, yeah, there's some other back roads between, Baker Road's a great alternative to get to Excelsior, or Mitchell Road that from down in Eden Prairie turns into, that's what turns into Baker Road, actually. But, Shady Oak Road from the north and from the south, all kinds of routes into Hopkins. So we don't have light rail just yet, but eventually that'll be a thing.
Well, and also I should mention that, if you do come into Hopkins, they got the art out there, too. Hopkins is a cute town. It's a great opportunity for you to go there, and this goes all day. And I also want to make sure I mention this, too. The Minnesota Aurora soccer team, they're going to have some representatives out there as well?
That's correct.
Nice.
Representing our community in sports. We also got photo opportunities with our drag performers. There's going to be a horse. I'm not sure if that's horse riding or not, but there's at least a horse there. face painting, free carnival games with prizes, a couple of contests with giveaways, and bring your appetite and your thirst because we got some awesome food trucks coming and craft beer, of course, from LTD Brewing,
which is right there in downtown Hopkins as well. All right, so what's
we're like right outside their front door, so of course
perfect.
they're going to be helping us out.
All right, and I want to also give a shout out to Costa Rica Ballroom because I've been taking dancing lessons up there. Love those guys. They're going to be out there as well, so looking forward to that.
Yep, we got DJ Nediak, Hopkins Dance Company. You mentioned Costa Rica Ballroom, the drag performances, and if the weather holds out, live music from a group called the Zaddies.
All right.
And I've not heard them. I tried to dig up any video or anything I could find on them, so they're going to be as new to me as everybody else in the audience.
All right, this is happening in Hopkins. It is tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., rain or shine. That is the event. There also is the Alley Cat Race. It's at 9:30 at the Clock Tower, which is 9th and Main Street in downtown Hopkins. What is the website, Paul, if people want to find out more information? Is there one?
Yep. There's a great website at hopkinspride.org. And you can shop for some swag there early if you want. You can buy your wristband in advance so you don't have to get through the crush of thirsty beer drinkers to get your 21 plus wristband. What else am I thinking of? The other thing that we really want to focus on is making this incredibly family friendly. So we've vetted all the vendors to make sure there's nothing obscene. We check with all of our performers to make sure that the music is also age appropriate, but certainly no obscenities and stuff, keeping it family in mind.
Well, and we were out there. I was out there last year with my kids. It was a blast. And there's sometimes there are people out there that try to vilify these things. It's not. It is just a good time. And like I said, you get the chance to go see the drag performances. That you will remember that. That is going to be a lot of fun. So, Paul, I got to tell you, I'm very happy this is expanded. I'm very happy. This is going to be a big deal. I hope you have a really big turnout tomorrow. All my best to everyone in Hopkins for Hopkins Pride. Once again, tomorrow from 11 to 7 on 8th and Main Street in Hopkins.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. Paul Peterson, kind enough to join us today. I'll tell you what, let's take a break, come back. We'll get one more story in, and then I'll get some music to take us out here on a Friday when we do return. It is a Matt McNeil show right here on a Friday. AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. Two things I want to get to, two final things here I want to get to before we get to the music here at the end of the show. The family of Leneal Frazier, the man who was killed by a Minneapolis police officer when he crashed his car while chasing another vehicle in 2021, has filed a federal lawsuit against the city claiming that its practices played a role in his death. The family is seeking unspecified damages, but for Richard Frazier, Leneal's brother, money doesn't matter. I don't care. I love my brother. I miss my brother. There's not an amount of money that they can give us that's going to bring my brother back. The lawsuit filed on Thursday claims that the city's unlawful customs and practices allowed police to engage and continue high-speed pursuits similar to the chase that killed him. According to the court documents, Minneapolis Police Department officer Brian Cummings reached speeds close to 100 miles an hour for nearly 20 blocks prior to the crash. The chase wound through North Minneapolis, including residential neighborhoods. Eventually, prosecutors say Cummings ran a red light at Lyndale and 41st Avenue North, collided with a Jeep driven by Leneal, who died from the significant injuries he sustained in the crash last year. Cummings pled guilty to manslaughter, was sentenced to 270 days in prison. All it took was for him to have some type of compassion and type of concern for my brother that was on the road. We want to be, and we wouldn't be going to 41st and Lyndale to celebrate my brother's legacy as a memory. The law firm representing the Frazier family also released a new dash cam, body-worn camera, and traffic camera footage from the night of the crash. Jeff Storm says they would have liked to have brought this to the lawsuit sooner, but had to wait until Cummings' criminal case ran its course. I think it was very hard for the family. It was waiting to really see what happened to their brother, and we now have the dash cam. We have the body cam evidence. And now for his children and siblings, they've seen that he suffered horribly after his crash. Is not sure when it will go to trial. So I bring this up because now in this case, I distinctly get the impression, I think especially O'Hara, with his police department and his mentality, that this would have been called off a lot sooner, that this idea of, chasing people at 100 miles an hour doing residential streets is a recipe for a disaster, which it was, and this was the case. This was just what it was. It was bad policing. We have helicopters, we have cameras all over the metro area. You would have been able to track these people somewhat else. You did not have to do this. He did not have to die. But yet, once again, what's going to happen here? Well, the city of Minneapolis is going to have to write a pretty big check for some really crap police decisions. And here's where all of a sudden the police, who always are generally very vocal about quality police work, they had it coming. All of a sudden, they get really quiet. They don't want to say anything. Because, frankly, the reason why Minneapolis has to keep paying this money out is because they were really bad at their job. Ricky Cobb's family, now that's going to be a state lawsuit because that was a state trooper. They're going to get probably mid 8 figures. I'm going to be guess. That would probably be my guess. Now, all the same people that when the charges were dropped, and I was very vocal that the way the law is written, Republicans have written it to where you can basically scream, "I was scared! I was scared!" You can shoot anyone. As long as you say that, you can shoot anyone. So that when that case was pulled off the table, they weren't going to prosecute Londrigan. Well, what happened? This was quality police work. This was quality police work. Well, and all of a sudden, there's going to be a lawsuit against the state in the case of a state trooper. And all of a sudden, all those quality police work guys are going to be like, I don't have anything else to say. I think you guys should have to prosecute that case. Let's leave the state of Minnesota or the city of Minneapolis. Let's leave them out of the case at this point. Let's let you guys be able to if this is, I guarantee you what you're saying, this is quality police work. Well, then fine. Take your lawyers, spend your money, and go and defend it. And then if you lose what you consider, you're screaming as quality police work, which, by the way, I guarantee you will be pulled into the civil trial against you. But when you do that, all of a sudden, maybe, just maybe, when you're costing the taxpayers of the state or the city 8-9 figures once every 2 or 3 months because of crap police work, that maybe, just maybe, you'll start, if that's coming from your budgets, you'll put in some immediate rules that will prevent you from being bankrupt within 1 or 2 of these lawsuits. I'm just saying, this is the latest case, but, Minneapolis police in the past, I think O'Hara is doing a pretty good job. I'm going to be blunt. I think he is doing a better job. But in the case of the State Patrol with Ricky Cobb, they're not all of a sudden, their little sphincters are going to tighten up real tight. Then all of a sudden, the big check comes and pays, because they can't make the argument when the city has to pay that money that it was quality police work. Then's when they'll say, I think we don't have anything else to say at this point. Yeah. All right. Well, then you pay it out of your damn budget. Don't come to us taxpayers when we're already giving you money, which you clearly aren't doing for good training. Why don't you take some of that money that was supposed to be for training and pay off this little 8-figure little, tab, and let the rest of us off the hook? How about that? One other thing I wanted to mention here just really quick. This is actually something that I saw this story and I'm like, oh, actually, this is going to be a big problem. So we have the Minnesota State Fair coming up, right? And if you've ever gone out to the cattle barns or the poultry barn or anything like that, they got a lot of animals in there. Well, we talked with Dr. Joe early this week about the bird flu, avian flu, H5N1, which is not just for birds anymore. It's in the dairy cow population. You're going to need to make sure, considering the theory now is that people are getting it by just being near cows. you're going to need for the state fair to put up some fairly stringent protocols to make sure that the Minnesota State Fair doesn't become, the bullseye and the target for a major outbreak of something here, okay? I don't know what you can do, but, the Minnesota Board of Animal Health has released new protocols for handlers, but they said is an animal, they have to have an inspection with a week before arriving at the fair. They have to have a veterans inspection before the fair. I think you're going to need to have it at the fair itself. I think you're going to have to look at these cows as they come on in and say, yep, nope, because I think that's the last thing that needs to happen here. Yeah, we have to take this seriously. All right. Once again, Monday, Nancy Nelson, Brett in on Tuesday, Brett and Philip Anthony on Wednesday and Thursday, and Nancy Nelson in on Friday. I will be back coming up here in about a week or so. So have a fun time. I'll see you around the city in the next week. Taking us out this Friday, I have not done Queen. We will rock you. Have a good one. We will talk to you in a week from Monday. Till then, see ya.
Buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise, playing in the street, gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, singing, we will rock you. We will rock you. Buddy, you're a young man, hard man, shouting in the street, gonna take on the world someday. You got blood on your face, a big disgrace, waving your banner all over the place. We will rock you. Sing it out. We will rock you. Buddy, you're an old man, poor man, pleading with your eyes, gonna make you zombie someday. You got mud on your face, big disgrace. Somebody better put your bag into your place. We will